So it had an issue shortly after we resolved the ignition coil, and not surprisingly, I kind of mentioned this slightly when I was doing the radiator and condenser from doing that, as well as the thermostat job. This pipe here is of course plastic. Like many things back in the 90s, they went to plastic for a lot of things they really shouldn't have, in my opinion. You can see here, hopefully, there's like a little crack. Hopefully y'all can see that. So you can see that crack right there. So that blew out and of course dumped a big chunk of my coolant out on the asphalt. So thusly a low coolant light came on, or actually message. We're going to be replacing that. Once again, I didn't have this during the time that I did the other stuff, and really and truthfully it didn't look terribly bad. It certainly didn't look bad here, but it did blow out on me not long after I had it all back of it running. I wouldn't say more than about 50 miles. These are old cars, and there's a lot of plastic, so you're going to come across these surprising things on occasion. So the new unit, you can kind of see here, it's a much darker looking plastic. Hopefully they've used more modern plastics on this, and it'll be a little more reliable. It does come with new O-rings, as well as a new temp sensor. That's what that is right there. That's your coolant temp sensor. So really bad place to put it, in my opinion, because this of course is going to be the first thing to be out of coolant. So it's going to give you a false reading pretty much as soon as you start dumping a bunch of it. Fortunately, my car is still running just fine, so I don't think any damage was had. These are aluminum engines, aluminum blocks, aluminum heads, so it really don't take a whole lot to damage them. So be aware of that. You ever have a coolant issue, you definitely want to shut it down pretty quickly. The part we're going to be using today is a Euro spare, and this part number is a AJ85885/1111, and it's just simply listed as a coolant pipe. I've used some other Euro spare stuff. So far it's all seemed to be pretty good, gaskets and whatnot. Feel pretty confident in this part here. Definitely is exact fit. I'm not really seeing any differences between it and the original. We're going to get this on the car. This is something I saw not too long ago on another YouTuber's channel. It's To the Garage. One of his viewers was talking about his XK8 having the lower radiator hose getting chafed or gouged by the shroud. On this unit, we're seeing the same thing that he saw over here on the lower radiator. That's the one that's over on the left hand side of the car, or driver's side of the car if it's American. And you can see, hopefully, right there, these little gouges. See there? It's actually hitting right here on this shroud piece, because the hose, the way it's laying, is just barely bouncing across there as you're driving down the road, and the vibration of the engine and everything else. Well, they found that the positioning of the hose makes a difference, and what they mean by the positioning of the hose is actually the rotation of the hose on its clamped points, such as right here. You can see the hose goes in and it clamps. You can kind of see down off in there, that silver clamp way down in there. Depending on how this hose is rotated, such as like this, like if I was to take this and rotate it this way before I clamped it, that would actually put enough tension within the rubber itself to kind of hold this pipe up a little higher, like this, and off of the fan shroud. You can do it there, and then of course the same thing on the bottom of the radiator. At that connection, you can kind of rotate it back towards the fender just a little bit to kind of help these humps hold this up. So these bends in the pipe, or the humps, such as over there, that will actually hold it up if you have the twist in the pipe right. And that's all good being said, repeating what he did, but I wanted to note something else that I've noticed on my two XKs, is this one here. You can see it real good. This pipe is actually resting against the valve cover head if it pushed over too much. Now once again, if I was to loosen up this clamp and rotate it, I would get much more gap here. You want to watch these points. Another point of interest is right here, where it gets real close to the air box. So I don't think there's as much of a possibility here that there is up at the engine, the crossover pipe. Do keep good attention on that, because that is a point of failure, especially if you're putting a brand new hose on. You know, you'd hate to sit there and ruin a brand new hose over just not having it positioned properly. I'm going to show you this same thing on my coupe, where I've got the gaps and everything proper. So here we are back over on the coupe, where you can see we've still got good gap here, about the same as the convertible. But up here, where it's really important, seems to be the bigger problem, we've actually got a gap here where the other one is actually resting. And that's all because I rotated this knuckle out towards the actual radiator and fan. That gave me that extra little gap there that kept it from rubbing on the valve cover and head. Now, of course, over here on the upper radiator, how well y'all can see that. Hopefully I can get you a good enough shot, especially my hand behind here, help get some different color in there. You can see we got a good gap here too. So that's not going to sit here and bounce up and down. Now keep in mind, as the pipes get older, my pipes on this car are brand new. So as those pipes get older, you have a chance of them sagging. So you're going to want to keep an eye on that ever so often, such as oil changes and whatnot. Just make sure they're not rubbing. It's the worst thing going down the road and all of a sudden you lose all your coolant, unless you carry a spare pipe on you and a couple of hose clamp tools, especially this one that goes down low. That one there, I believe I've touched on before, with the special tool makes that a lot easier. But that clamp is way down that hole, so getting a pair of pliers down there is going to be a bear. And just keep that in mind when you're working on your radiator pipes. Keep them clear of any kind of damage and danger.